All right, welcome to our weekly review for this passing week, April 15th, Monday to April 19th. So today is Saturday, April 20th. It's also the long weekend in North America, or pretty much all the Western country because of the Easter. So I hope you guys, if you are in this North American time zone, or you're in Europe, or basically if you are religious and you do celebrate the holidays, happy Easter for you guys. And let's just quickly, I'm just gonna do a very quick review for this week. Now, first thing first is that whenever there is a holiday, like this week, a long weekend, you always have to understand the market will react a little bit different, just because you will have a very thin liquidity. Most big banks or big traders are not going to be at their desk on Friday or even Thursday. A lot of them will wrap up on Thursday. A lot of them wouldn't even trade for the week. It really depends on their position and their style. Now, for me personally, I just love trading, so I'm always in the market, but I'm also always keep an eye on the holidays. And knowing that because of the holiday season and the long weekend, you will always expect a few certain things, which I will explain to you. Actually, let me explain to you right now. So basically, when there is a holiday, a long weekend coming up, the first thing you have to understand is you will generally have a risk of sentiment before the holiday. Because the holiday is unusual for the forex market, generally we have a Saturday off, and that's it. The market starts on Sunday from the Asian zone. And whenever you have a off market hours, people will want to park their money at a safe asset, a safe haven asset, just to prevent any unpredictable events or uncertainties. So whenever you have a holiday season, or whenever it's Saturday or Friday before the market close, you will see an inflow into the gold, Japanese yen, or Swiss franc, or even euro and US dollar. And for the simple reason that people want to put their money in a safe place during the market off hours. And that's just a very straightforward psychology of people, because you're not able to have your hands on your triggers. Basically, you're not able to maneuver your trades during the off hours. So where you want to put your money? In some way safe. So we always have this kind of safe mentality whenever there is a holiday season or a holiday, basically. So that's something you have to always know and keep in mind. That's a general correlation of the forex market, or basically just the whole market. Now, does that mean it's going to happen every time? Of course not. It's just a general rules of ideas, but you have to understand market is very dynamic. It's very fluid. So of course you want to trade in accordance to the environment, the trading environment and the market that you're currently in. But it's just a general rule of thumb. Whenever on Friday or when you have a long weekend, just expect there is going to be an inflow of volume into a safe haven currencies and safe haven asset such as gold. Okay, so this week, the first thing, we start Monday, and immediately we have the monetary policy meeting minute. And this, if I remember correctly, let me go back to my note. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to remove this. So I think on Monday we have the monetary policy meeting minutes, and the minutes was really not a big fireworks, basically, but it does help us. It does help Australian dollar, basically. So remember last week, the trades that we were still in were Aussie yen and Aussie newsy last week. Right? It wasn't. We couldn't even get out from that the last week from our trade. And Monday, let me just go into the chart, then we'll have a more clear understanding. Okay, so Monday is April 15. Let me zoom out a little bit so you'll see what I'm saying. This is a 5 minutes, by the way. So as you can see, April 12th was a weekend, and we actually end up way higher for Australian dollar from last week. And Monday was actually quite flat, as you can see, was quite flat. And then the monetary policy minute, it was perceived as a little bit dovish. So we do see a little bit downside for Australian dollar from Monday, right? Monday night all the way into Tuesday. And if we take a look at the week, yes, Australian dollar seems to lose a little bit of momentum and strength for Aussie yen at least. But on the contrary, whenever I told you guys, trading currency is about picking the winner, but it's also about picking the loser, because you're always buying as a pair. So you want to not only get the right winners, you also want to pair that currency with the losers. So for example, like Aussie yen trade, I'm still in this trade, and I'm actually in a little bit drawdown. As you can see where I entered with the blue line here, 80.25. Stop loss is at 79.40 and profit is at 81.75. So for this week, this is really quite flat for me, and I wasn't surprised. As I say, this week is basically a holiday week, a long weekend. So I always expect a little bit inflow into the Japanese yen, but that's just a general rule of thumb. That is not something for me to exit a trade unless we have another geopolitical event that is very, very dovish or very bearish. But for this week, we haven't seen that. On the contrary, this week, if you go into the economic calendar, you'll see that the Chinese data, GDP came out quite strong. Industrial production came out at 8.5%. Even the retail sales is 8.7%. So the Chinese data on Tuesday really fill up the market, give the market a very strong push. Basically, right now, China is a very strong economy. And whenever they have a good economic data, that means the whole global economy will still be on the upside. Okay, that's why Chinese data is important. We don't trade the Chinese renminbi, the Chinese yuan, their currency, but we do take a great consideration into the Chinese data. So that was one of the reasons why this week is not as bearish as people would thought, especially when it comes to holiday season. We also have a very positive data from Canada on Wednesday. We also have a very positive data from Australia, again, a very positive data from US. You see the core retail and retail sale. And basically all the data from these major countries were quite positive, which was the main reason that even though Japanese yen should be strong for the week due to the holiday season, due to the safe haven currency inflow, but that was not the case. So the worst case outcome for Aussie yen is we are flat. Okay, so we'll see what happens next week. But why I want to point out this is that yes, Australian dollar is a winner, but if you pick another currency to pair it up like Japanese yen at this week, and if you don't know the fundamental reason or the currency correlation, then you would be very puzzled. You're saying, okay, how come Aussie yen is not reacting the way it should be? Well, that is the reason, because Japanese yen always get a strong input or inflow during the holiday season or a long weekend. And on the other hand, our Aussie Newsy trade was successful and profit. Now this is a new line, so ignore this one. We had this trade last week at, just give me 1 second, our entry at 1.0558. So last week, let me draw the line for you so it's more clear, and I'm gonna change the color just to differentiate. Okay, so pick orange. I love orange. So last week, our entry was at 1.0558. It was at 1.0558 at here. Okay, that was our entry last week at April 9th. Okay, and our stop loss is at 1.0828, right about here. That was our stop loss, and the profit target is 1.0625. 1.0625. Okay, so that was a trade from last week, and we couldn't really get out last week. Remember, we were still in this trade on April 12th at the weekend. Then beginning on April 15th, we see a very negative Australian dollar due to their monetary policy. But then we have a strong shoots up on April 16th, and that hits our profit target right here directly. And it actually goes way beyond our profit target. And why? It's because the weakness of New Zealand dollar. So that's why I'm saying that you have to know how to pick the winner, but you also have to know how to pick the losers, because Aussie Newsy is the strongest pair to trading Australian dollar for this week. So what happened April 16 is we have a negative CPI data from New Zealand. Now, a lot of people will ask me, do I know that the CPI data is going to be negative? Of course not. I'm not a guru. I'm not I'm not a guru. Like I don't see the future. Of course I don't know how the data point is going to come out. But the reason I pick Aussie Newsy for buying Australian dollar is for the simple reason that I think New Zealand dollar is fundamentally weaker than Australian dollar. That's the first reason. Second thing is that they both are commodity currencies, so they will have limited effect by the risk sentiment. That means if we have a very bearish sentiment, if the risk sentiment is very dovish, let's say something really bad happening in North Korea, okay, let's say they launch another missile for this week, and that caused a lot of panic. What's going to happen is people are going to buy Japanese yen, Swiss franc, and they're going to sell Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar at the same time. That means they both are going to go down. Now, which one is going to go down more? I don't know. But they will have limited effect by the risk sentiment. And that's why I pick Aussie Newsy as the trade. And I was very confident last week to hold it over the weekend. And lo and behold, this week on Tuesday, because of the negative New Zealand CPI, our trade was profit. Okay. So I was quite happy because it basically, not because I win the trade, but it basically, remember last week on our weekly review video, I said that I have lost 3 trades, and if Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, this trade can win, I will still be a win for last week. Why? Because I always pick the trade with an adequate risk reward ratio. And that's why it's very important. When you pick a trade, if all your trade have a good risk reward ratio, then you don't need to win every trade. In fact, you can lose more than you win by trades, but because your winnings are always larger than your losing, at the end of the day, you are still going to come out as a winner. And that's what happened. Last week, I lost 3 trades. I only win 2 trades. But because 2 of my winnings are larger than losing, so I still come out as a winner from last week. Okay, so that was the trade from Aussie Newsy last week. So this week on April 15, what I did is I picked Aussie yen again. Okay, so remember Aussie yen, we were profit last week. It was done and dusted. And at the beginning of the week, I picked Aussie yen again, regardless of the holiday season. Now, looking back, perhaps that was not a right trade, to be honest with you. Now, I make mistake just like everybody else. So now looking back, I feel that maybe I should have picked Aussie CAD or even Aussie dollar or Euro Aussie. Now, for the simple reason that because of the Easter, the holiday weekend, I should have known that Japanese yen or Swiss franc will always have a stronger interest for buyers. So for me, even though Australian dollar is very strong, it's basically I'm picking a trade that's going to go against me, and that was exactly what happened. Now, does that mean this trade is gonna come out as a loser? Not necessary. I'm very lucky because this week we have a quite few positive data point from China, from US, from Canada, which pushed the market to the upside. But nevertheless, although I picked the winner, I did not pick the correct loser. So I picked Aussie yen at the beginning of the week, April 15, and I got filled in, but I am, I have up and down, basically just a flat, and I'm still in this trade. So we'll see what happened to this trade next week. But even if I win, I still think this was not a really good trade for me to begin with. Okay, so that's something you have to learn to do as a trader. You should always focusing on the process of picking a trade. You should always focus on how you manage the trade and what is your analysis. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to tie your trading success to the result. Of course, the result is very important. But if you gamble your way in trading and you win, I can guarantee you that is going to be a short term. So it doesn't matter how much money you win. If you don't trade the market in a correct manner, the end of the day, you will get backfire. And I'm saying this with 100% certainty because that was exactly what happened to me. When I started trading a decade ago, I was basically just gambling. And the reason I kept gambling is because I won. And when you gamble and win, you're always going to feel that you're so smart, you're a genius. And trust me, it's always going to come back and bite you. And the pain is going to be very, very big because by the time you gave yourself that bad habit of gambling and give yourself an illusion of that how smart you are, where the fact is you're just gambling and being lucky, you are going to put more and more chips on your game, so you're losing is going to come back bite you in a very painful way. So that was exactly what happened to me. So even though Aussie yen might profit next week, I don't care. I still think it's not really a good trade for me. Okay, so that was a Monday, like my trade call for the Monday. Now, obviously, I have other trade call for the Monday, I believe. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, so Aussie yen was the only trade call I have on Monday. Tuesday, our trade call was, I think Tuesday, our trade call was, I actually didn't enter anything on Tuesday. I think Tuesday, our trade call was, I didn't enter anything because I was waiting for the data point from New Zealand dollar. I also want to see what happened to the Chinese data. Okay. So Tuesday, probably the only thing I want to do is to keep buying Australian dollar. Keep buying Australian dollar or keep buying US dollar. But because we have a negative policy minute from Australian dollar, and the most important thing is that Tuesday, I think I was waiting for the Chinese data. I want to really see what happened to the Chinese data point before I enter this trade, because this is not just about China. This is about the global market. And right after 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I remember that right after the data point come out, I was very positive and I entered another Australian dollar long again. And the reason is because this data point completely reversed the risk sentiment for the market. Another thing is that on Tuesday, our euro dollar trade was profit. That was from, yes, okay, I remember right now. So sorry about it, guys. Just give me 1 second. So on Tuesday, I enter a euro dollar short, and this euro dollar short was basically from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, so this was a new trade I entered on Tuesday. For some reason, I thought I had this trade from last week. Now, if any of you follow my video, maybe you can refresh my memory. Okay, no, I entered this trade on Tuesday. All right, so Tuesday I did enter the trade. My trade call was euro dollar, and the thought process was that because of the negative Australian dollar and because of the negative Australian dollar and because of the safe haven inflow from the Easter holiday, my thinking pattern is, okay, what can I do? Can I enter a commodity currency? No, because we have a negative monetary policy from Aussie. We also have an Easter holiday coming up, so we might have a strong risk of sentiment currency, Japanese yen and Swiss franc. So I don't want to get into any new Australian dollar or New Zealand dollar or even Canadian dollar trade. But can we buy in Japanese yen and Swiss franc right away? I also don't want to do that because I know both Japanese yen and Swiss franc are very weak fundamentally. And if the market on Tuesday, if the Chinese data turn out to be positive, which it had been, but by the time I entered, I didn't know, right? So let's just say I didn't know how the Chinese data is going to come out. So I don't want to put in Japanese yen and Swiss franc because we might have a very strong Chinese data, and that will cause Japanese yen and Swiss franc to drop. So that leaves me with the only thing that's available, which is US dollar. Why? Because US dollar has a very strong fundamental economy. That's a given, right? Regardless of the Federal Reserve not hiking any interest rate so far in 2019. All the data point from US GDP, inflation, and NFP are still quite strong. So I think US dollar is very strong regardless. Now, on the other hand, is a lot of people don't realize that the US dollar is a safe haven currency. US dollar or US, United States, is still the strongest country and the safest country in the world. So whenever shit happened, forgive my language, but whenever bad things happened, people are still going to buy US dollar. US dollar are still the global currency. If you guys travel to the world, you'll know that US dollar is still the dominant currency wherever you go, especially if you go to a lot of rural countries, third world countries. US dollar is as good as gold. Okay? So because of that, I bought US dollar. I pick a winner. Now, who was my losers? I pick euro. For the simple reason that euro USD is the number one currency, the most liquid currency if you wanted to buy or sell US dollar. That's one reason. Second reason is that European market, European economy has been on the downside. We have a very negative economy so far from Europe, from Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. And we also have a very dovish ECB from last week. So I think if all things are equal, even though euro is also considered as a safe haven currency and we might have a strong buying because of the Easter holiday, it doesn't matter because I think euro, if people are going to buy euro out of the safe haven currency, they are also going to buy US dollar. And that's why I picked euro dollar on Tuesday. And what happened is this was another winning trade because we had a huge drop on euro USD. Now, it does not happen on Tuesday. In fact, it goes against us on Tuesday. So I got into this trade on Tuesday, April 16th. And then it goes into our direction at the beginning, but then we had a quite nasty drawdown on Wednesday. But I was keep holding this trade because, as I say, I think US dollar economically is still stronger than the euro. And my stop loss was right here. I think it was very high point that we haven't been able to touch it, for the previous week. It was right at 1.1330. And on Friday or Thursday, we had a very negative PMI data from the European countries that caused a large drop in euro, and we profit in this trade. In fact, it once again blast over our target, and it was a pretty nice winning trade for the week. So Euro USD was my trade call for Tuesday, which was another winner, and I'm quite happy about it. On Wednesday, because we already had a data point for New Zealand and for Chinese data. So on Wednesday, we have the UK CPI. But to be honest with you guys, I am not trading British pound at all. For the simple reason, right now the Brexit is completely up in the air. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Are they going to reach a deal by June? The ECB the European nation has given UK a deadline all the way on the October, but Prime Minister May had come out and said that she would resign, before the June if they can have a deal that passing through the parliament. Basically, just so much chaos in the Brexit right now in the politics of UK. So that is the main focus in the market. Now, does that mean the CPI is not important? No, it is important, but it's not going to be a long-term effect. So if you are trading British pound, the only way you're gonna be able to trade it successfully is either you are a very long-term trader, you're trading it in a yearly base, in a monthly perspective, or you're a very short-term trader. You are trading in 5 minutes, but you're always in front of your desk. You have a rain squawk going up. You know exactly what happened. You can react to the news within seconds. If you are able to do that, if you are a full-time trader, then yes, you can trade British pound successfully. But if you're not, I'm not a full-time trader. I place my trade and I leave my desk. I go about my day. I only trade before each sessions. And I'm sure you guys are signing up to my webinar because you are like me. You have another job. You have another life. So if that's the case, you don't want to trade British pound at the moment because it's too unpredictable for us. So I don't care about the CPI at all. I don't trade British pound. And my trade call for Wednesday was basically based on what happened on Tuesday night. We have a very strong Chinese data point, very negative CPI. So my thinking pattern was that because we have a very strong Chinese data and the very negative New Zealand dollar, people are going to buy a commodity currencies because now the Chinese data has proved that the global economy is still quite okay. We are still on the upside. People are going to buy a risk on sentiment currencies, but they are not going to buy New Zealand dollar for the simple reason that the CPI is very negative. This will basically confirm that the RBNZ might cut interest rate in their next meeting. So that gives people two choice only, either buy Australian dollar or buy Canadian dollar. And I chose Australian dollar again on Wednesday. So my trade call on Wednesday, why some people might ask, is because we had the CPI data on Canada. So I was trading this prior London session. I don't want to get into Canadian dollar before the CPI data in the New York session. It is too much uncertainty that can completely change the direction of the Canadian dollar. So I don't want to trade CAD on Wednesday. So that really left me with one choice only, which is buying the Australian dollar. That's my winner for the one I picked. So what other currency I picked as a loser? I picked Euro. I picked Euro very simple with the same analysis that I think Euro is in a very weak position right now. Economically, their data points are weak, that's fundamental speaking, and sentimentally speaking, ECB had been quite dovish as well. So I picked Euro Aussie short on Wednesday, April 17th as my trade call. This was my trade call on April 17th, and as you can see, I am still in this trade. So I got filled April 17 during the New York session, and it had been quite flat for Euro Aussie basically for this week. So I'm still in this trade. Hopefully, this trade would go into our direction, especially since we had a quite negative Euro ending for this week. So I hope that this trade might work out, but we'll see what happened next week. So this was my trade call on Wednesday. Now, I also gave out trade call for New Z short on Wednesday, New Z CAD and New Z dollar in particular. So if you have picked those trades actually react much better than Euro Aussie on Wednesday for the week. Now, April 18, because what happened is we have a very positive Canadian dollar due to the good trade balance, very positive CPI data, and a quite nice CPI, which is in line. And because of that, and we also have very positive employment data from Australia on Wednesday. So because of that, on Thursday, I decide to buy Canadian dollar. But once again, since we are approaching Easter holiday season, I don't want to pick something that's Japanese yen or Swiss franc. So I picked New Zealand dollar. I picked New Z CAD as my trade call for the Thursday, for the very simple reason that we have a negative New Zealand dollar out of the negative CPI data this week. We have a strong market speculation that RBNZ is going to cut interest rate in their next meeting. And for the very simple reason that both Canadian dollar and New Zealand dollar are on the same category of safe of the commodity currencies, which means they will have a limited effect by the risk sentiment. So I picked New Z CAD short right here on Thursday, April 18. I got into this trade on Thursday, and basically this trade is flat, so we ending the week is quite flat. I'm still in this trade right now. And April 19, I picked another trade, Aussie New Z long. So April 19, Friday, Good Friday, we are right at the holiday season, beginning of the holiday season. Now, that does not mean the Forex market is completely off, because you have to understand only the Western nations are celebrating the Easter, or maybe the Christians in Asia. But most Asian market, Japanese, Chinese, were not celebrating Easter. So that's why the market is still open. But obviously, I'm once again not going to pick anything that's going to be too affected by the risk sentiment. So I picked Aussie New Z once again on on Friday. And that was basically my trade on Friday. I don't think this trade was filled because I picked it right here, Friday. So the trade is not filled. So basically Friday, there is no trade for me. And looking back at this week, right now, my Aussie yen, Euro Aussie are still in play, and New Z CAD short. So I'm still bullish in Australian dollar, bullish in the US dollar, and bullish in Canadian dollar, bearish in New Zealand dollar, Euro, and Japanese yen, Swiss franc. So basically, that's my analysis for the week. This week and last week are all quite a good week. It turned out a winning week for me. And most important thing is I'm happy that regardless of that I'm actually lost more trades than the one I lose, but because of the risk reward, I actually came out as a winner. And the things I can make myself better is to have a better analysis, to be more clear about the risk sentiment. So I should not have picked Aussie yen long, as I mentioned. So even if this trade come out as a winner next week, it's still not a good trade for me. The good trade for me will be New Zealand CAD and Aussie Newsy, because then Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, and Canadian dollar are both in the commodity category. So that's much, much safer to pick these kind of currencies together ahead of the holiday season. Okay, so that's a short recap for this week. Next week, let's take a look at the calendar just to see if we have anything important at the beginning of the week. As you can see, we have a bank holiday. So it's going to be very quiet for Sunday and Monday. The market will really open on Tuesday. And right away, we are going to see the CPI from Australian dollar. So this is very, very important for Australian dollar. Again, if we have a very negative CPI, obviously we're going to see a lot of selling into Australian dollar. Now, hopefully, it's not going to affect Aussie Newsy too much, but it will definitely be very negative. On the contrary, if we have very strong CPI data, trend mean CPI, then Australian dollar will have another strong push. Wednesday, we will have the Canadian Bank of Canada's overnight rate. It's not going to have any expectation, but watch out for the statement, and the press conference is also going to affect Canadian dollar. Bank of Japan is going to give the monetary policy summary and interest rate. It's not really too important for the Japanese Bank of Japan because they are still quite in the easing path. So it's not going to change in the short term. Thursday, you will have not much data point, to be honest. You do have core durable goods, but this is not really a tier 1 data. And Friday, you have the SMB come out, also not going to provide too much fireworks. The advanced GDP data point will be important for the US economy on Friday. But all in all, I think the real big events will be the CPI data from Australian and Bank of Canada. Other than that, it's going to be a quiet week. You only have 3 days of trading, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, basically. Okay. So that's it for this weekly review. Now, once again, if you like to join my daily webinar, feel free to do so. Going to my website, Toonie Webinar, which you can get into on my Instagram or YouTube, hyperlink, and I will put my free weekly review video here. If you want to sign up, just go here and click what day of the London session you want to sign up, and if you want a London session plus a New York update, it's going to be $3. You just sign up. If you want a whole week, 5 days of London session plus New York session updates, it's a very deep discount. You will spend $8. Now, all in all, when you click it and send me an email, and there's no link for you to pay, okay? I have to confirm my availability with you, and then I will send you a PayPal link. Okay, guys, I'm trying to do it in a very organic way because this is really an add-on for me, and hopefully you can learn something from it. So I only do it when I have time. Otherwise, I'm going to focus on my own daily trades. If you want to learn more about how I trade the market fundamentally, sentimentally, and technically, please join this kind of webinar. You're gonna gain a lot of knowledge, okay? Because I think there are only very few people or traders are trading in the 3 dynamics. There's a lot of traders who are teaching trading technically, which are very good. There's also a lot of traders who are trading fundamentally only. But to really combine fundamental, sentimental, and technical trading together and put in a daily trade perspective, I think is very valuable and quite unique in my own approach. So if you find it interested in this weekly review, if you want to learn more, feel free to let me know. If you decide to join, feel free to go to my website and sign up. Other than that, happy Easter, great weekend. I will see you next week. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.